CIL 650 presents It's Your Money, an up-close and personal look at your finances. Here's your host, Fritz Snyder.
Up in the morning and out to school. The teacher is teaching the golden rule.
Okay, we are back
American history and
talking about your money, more importantly about your money and how to keep it. That's the name of the show. You're listening to CIL 650, and we're on here every Sunday morning between 9 and 11. The first hour is a replay, so you just listen to an older show. I think we did that one on Thanksgiving, but now we are live, so you can talk to us about your money. We'd like to have conversations with you, our listening audience, about your money, more importantly, about your money and how to keep it. We're going to start off with Mark. He's on the line right now in Abbotsford. Mark, welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Not too bad.
Thanks for calling.
I have a question. I'm about set to reach my magic 90 with a municipal pension plan. I'm a government worker, and that's coming up in next year in July, so I can start receiving my municipal pension plan. But I'm wondering, I'm sort of torn as to whether I should take it right away or continue working and try and increase the amount that I can be getting on my pension, because I've attained another job now, so I'm making more money throughout the year. Should I take it next year
How old
right
are you,
away,
Mark?
or should I hold off and try and increase it?
How old are you, Mark? What's your age?
I'm 58.
You're 58. And you can retire right now at 58?
Can I retire right now?
Yeah.
I probably not.
How long are you going to live?
How long am I going to live?
Yep.
Probably, as stubborn as I am, probably over 100.
Okay, so you're going to need money for a long time.
Yes.
The question is your money going to last as long as you do?
Right.
So that will depend on your pensions, and I'm talking about Social Security. I'm talking about your pension, your private pension plan that you have, and I'm talking about your investments. Those calculations have to be made, and then you have to calculate, given a certain discount rate or rate of return and inflation, how long is my money going to last?
Right.
And the key question is, will your money live as long as you do?
Right.
Because that's what's important.
Okay.
And that really means a financial plan. Now, can you retire at 60?
Well, I see, the thing is, I feel like I'm really healthy as I am now.
Well, that doesn't matter. Can you retire at 60? If you wanted to.
If I wanted to, I think yes, I can.
Okay. Now the question is, how much income will you need when you're 60?
Right.
If you were 60 today and you weren't working, how much income would you need to live?
Yeah.
How much?
Oh, you see, that I'd have to sit down and start figuring it all out.
Well, that's what you got to do. You got to sit down. You got to make a budget for yourself. You have to say, this is how much money I'm going to spend on shelter. This is how much money I'm going to spend on groceries, on travel, on Christmas presents and birthday presents, on charity, on insurance, and all the other things that I spend money on. What will that number be? So you got to make a budget.
Right.
And people don't. Do you have a budget right now?
I started out at the beginning of the year with a budget, and then it's one of those things. If you don't keep on it, it just sort of slips away on you.
Well, I know that, and that's what happens to most people. That's why you got to keep at it. You got to keep working at it.
Yeah.
It's a moving target almost.
It is.
But without a budget, you don't know how much you're spending, and you can't manage your money.
Right.
So the first step in it, like if you were to come and see me, the first thing I'd do is sit down with you, just like a psychiatrist, and the first question is a big open-ended question, and I say, tell me about how you're spending your money.
Right.
And then I just encourage you to talk. And you say, well, I never seem to have anything left over, and yada, yada. It goes on like that.
Right.
Okay? So we try to define how much money you're spending. How much should you be spending? How can we cut your expenses back? Is there some way that we can reduce the expenses?
Right.
If you're paying interest expenses, there's some way to make it tax deductible. Are you paying too much for the wrong kind of life insurance? You see these ads on television all the time about Progressive Insurance and Geico and so on. They tell you how to cut back on your car insurance. But you can cut back on all kinds of insurance, every kind.
Right.
So if you can reduce your insurance and you can reduce the cost of living, we'll say by making the interest on your mortgage tax deductible and things like that, you can increase or decrease your expenses. Then the next question is, how can we increase your income?
Right.
Okay? That's what financial planning does. So I don't want to skate around the question, but I need an awful lot more information to determine that. But I can tell you in general terms that the sooner you can take your pension, the better. Even though it's a smaller amount, you're going to get it for a longer period of time.
Right.
Let's supposing you that you had a brother that and you and your brother were faced with a decision. Should you take your pension early or not? You take it early, 5 years earlier than your brother. You both die on the same date in the future sometime. You're going to get that income for 5 years longer than your brother.
Right.
A smaller amount, granted, but for 5 years longer. So if you can take that income early, maybe you put it into a TFSA or something like that, or reinvest it, even if you don't need it.
Right.
If you take it early, though, you got to consider the income tax that you have to pay when you start receiving it.
Right.
So there's pros and cons. And as a financial advisor, you have to sit down with somebody like myself, and I help you define your options. And then say, okay, you got 3 options, and number 3 is the best one. That's the one we should go for.
Right. Okay.
So that's the planning process. So if you call this show, or anybody else that calls this show, and you make arrangements with Frida, you can come in and see me, and I will prepare for you at absolutely no cost, obligation of any kind, a written financial plan which will give you all these numbers, and I'll have a consultation with you.
Okay.
No cost or obligation. So if you want to call Frida, you can get Frida right now down at the office at area code 604-737-3512. She's there right now.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
And Mark, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your call.
All right. No, it's I was listening on the radio, and I thought, oh, I think I need to talk to this guy.
Well, that's what it's all about. And really, it's about being a little more proactive about how you deal with your money. You got to take that step. Get your future going today. You don't have to wait until tomorrow.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
Thanks for your call.
Right. Thanks very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
I got Carol from North Vancouver on the line. Maybe that's my wife, because that's her name. Carol, welcome to the program. Hi, Carol.
Hello?
Hi, Carol. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hello, Carol. It's Fred Snyder here. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, I can't talk. Bye.
Okay. I think I know who that is. Okay, so Carol's line is now open, and Mark's line is now open, and I do have open lines. So if you're out there, you're listening to the show, get on the line, give me a call. I remind you once again, we're talking about your money, more importantly about your money and how to keep it. How to keep it is what it's all about, because we all earn a lot of money. We just don't keep it. We don't do a very good job in that area. We earn thousands of dollars during our working careers, and most of us will end up broke because we didn't have a financial plan. We didn't deal with the major obstacles that get in the way of financial success, and one of them is certainly about lack of knowledge. So we try to provide you with that knowledge on this show. We try to teach you what you need to know to make better financial decisions. So again, if you just tuned in, I'm certified financial planner Fred Snyder, also a registered financial planner representing Scotia McLeod. Wouldn't it be nice if we could all be financially independent? But what is financial independence? Well, to some people, it's belonging to the most exclusive social club in town. It may be a trust fund for the kids. It may be early retirement. It might be a bigger house. It might be a great big yacht. It might be a vacation home. We all have financial objectives. Our hopes, our plans, our dreams, and our ambitions all depend upon one thing, and that's the money we need to be able to carry them out. Most of us won't get there, sadly. 100 people starting on Equal Today at the age of 25. By the time they're 65, one is wealthy, only one out of 100. 4 are well-to-do, 5 are still working, 36 don't have to worry, their problems are solved, they're dead. And the rest, 54, are dead broke, dependent on family and state. And the only way to do it, the only way to make it, is to become proactive, not reactive, proactive about how you deal with your money. And the best way to become proactive is to get yourself a written financial plan. Ask yourself this question: do I have a written financial plan? Do I have a blueprint that spells out how I'm going to get from where I am right now to where I want to go financially? A plan that maps out my financial future. How do I get that? All you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there, is make a phone call. All you have to do is get on the line, give me a call, or call Frida down at the office. You can reach me right now at area code 604-280-0650. 280-0650. Long distance, 877-280-0650. Log on, www.sil.650.com. And there are those out there, they tell me all the time, I'd love to call the show, but I'm shy. If that's you, you can get a hold of Frida. She's down at the office right now at area code 604-737-3512. Long distance, 800-661-1495. So Frida doesn't work on Fridays because she works on Sundays because of this show. So again, you can talk to Frida if you have a question. You want to make an appointment for a second opinion on your investment portfolio. You want to get that written financial plan that we offered you. Just takes a phone call. Remember, the longest journey begins with the first step. Get your future going today by taking that step. Most important thing you could possibly do. And if you don't care about your money, I think you'd lie about other things. The bottom line is that everybody wants to be financially independent. Very few of us achieve that particular objective. Napoleon Hill, in his book Think and Grow Rich, says anything you can vividly imagine, ardently desire, and enthusiastically act upon will inevitably come to pass. He says set goals and make them very clear in your mind, and you'll almost automatically achieve them. You don't really worry too much about what you do. If the goal is clear enough, if it motivates you enough, if you want it badly enough, you'll do whatever it takes. Now let me tell you this. Let me give you a simple piece of advice. This is what you do. You spend less than you earn. You can't be broke on payday. So if you make $4,000 a month, you spend $3,500 a month, you got $500 left over, your bank account should be growing by $500 a month. If that's the case, before long you're going to have a second problem. You're going to have too much money in the bank, earning too little returns. So then you have to take that money, or at least some of it, and entrust it to experts. Give that money to an expert and say, here, invest this money for me. And then you leave it to compound. You let it grow. You don't keep dipping into it. So what should you do? To do that, you should be maximizing your RRSP, especially if you don't have a pension plan. If you're maximizing your RRSP, you should be taking the tax savings from your RRSP and you should be putting that into a TFSA. And if you still got some money left over, you should have that in a well-designed, well-balanced portfolio of investments, such as mutual funds, stocks, or bonds. And then you got to make sure that you always maintain the best investments. The best Canadian equity fund, the best U.S. equity fund, the best Japanese equity fund if you want. And guess what? The Chinese, they just dropped their interest rate, and boy, did that ever help the stock markets. Okay? So again, people a few weeks ago were thinking we were going to have another market meltdown, and the markets are booming right now. So again, you need an investment portfolio which is well designed, and you got to manage that portfolio. You have to sit down with your financial advisor on a regular basis and make sure that the investments inside that portfolio are always the best investments, the best energy fund, the best infrastructure fund, the best Canadian equity fund, the best bond funds, the best fixed income funds. What is the asset allocation, called strategic asset allocation, of your portfolio? How much money is in bonds? How much should be? How much money is in equities? How much should be? How much cash should you have? How much should you have? You got to weigh that. You got to look at that. And you got to compare it to a benchmark all the time. You just can't do it and forget about it. It takes a little bit of work. And you probably need a coach. You probably need a money coach, somebody like myself, to help you with the plan. Somebody that you can consult with on a regular basis. Somebody that you can pick up the phone and say, what do you think? What do you think of the markets? What's going on? What about precious metals? What happened? What about energy? What's energy going to do right now that oil, the price of oil is plummeting, and the U.S. right now has a glut of oil rather than shortages? Should we be driving electric cars? These are all questions that need answers. Is there some way I can cut back on the cost of my groceries? I have an electric car, and I was just thinking the other day, I'm going to put a solar panel on the roof and use the solar panel to charge my car. So now it's absolutely free. I drove out here today. That's from North Vancouver. I'm way out in Richmond, Stevenson Highway. And I drove all the way out here today on electricity. That's probably $3 worth of electricity. Normally, it probably costs me $10 at least in gas. But if I can charge my car using the sun, I don't know if I can or not, but I'm going to look into it. If I can do that, then it's free. How about that? Free is good. Okay? So what you got to be doing all the time, ladies and gentlemen, you have to be maximizing what's left over. You have to have what is known as discretionary income. So I ask you the question. You're out there, you're listening to the show right now. Tell me something. Can you take a piece of paper and write your discretionary income down on that piece of paper? That's the money that's left over at the end of every month. Now that might be positive, negative, or neutral. Maybe it's zero, that's neutral. Positive, it's a plus sign. It might be $200, $300, $400, $500 a month. It might be something like that. On the other hand, it might be minus. What happens if it's minus $500 a month? What's going on if it's minus $500 a month? It means your bank account, if you have one, is decreasing by $500 a month. And it means if you don't have a bank account, you must be borrowing $500 a month to cover the shortfall, which means your credit card balances are getting higher and higher. Your expenses are going up because now you got to pay interest on that money. That's a problem that needs to be fixed. So how are you going to fix it? What are you going to do? Okay, who are you going to call? We'll call Fred Snyder, CFP, RFP, Scotia McLeod. Give me a call and say, help me fix my deficit. And I might say to you, you can't. You better declare bankruptcy. It might be that bad. But you know something? You got to face up to it. You can't ignore it. Because if you do, it's going to bite you sooner or later. You're going to have a problem. You might lose your job if you have to go bankrupt. So avoid that in the first place by having a proper budget. So you have discretionary income. Then you need an investment plan to take care of that discretionary income. And then you need a proper will, proper estate planning. Because if you follow all these steps, you're going to accumulate a lot of money, certainly if you have enough time to do so. Or maybe you've already accumulated a lot of money. If that's the case, what is your estate plan? How are you going to make sure that those assets pass to your beneficiaries without the government grabbing it all in taxes or without them fighting over those assets, which often happens? You need a proper will. You have to manage your estate from the grave. How do you do that? That's a proper estate plan. So if you call the show, got a nice giveaway. I got a nice book on will and estate planning. Get a copy of that, and you also get a will kit. All you got to do is make a phone call. So I'm going to give the numbers out once again. I'm not getting a lot of calls here right now. We started off early, but 604-280-0650. 604-280-0650. Some people say I give those numbers out too fast. I just gave it out twice, nice and slow. Once again, 604-280-0650. Now, if you're calling long distance, it's 877-280-0650. And if you got a computer, as I have here right now, you can log on. You can see me, see what I look like. And you can log on www.CIL650.com. Now, if you're shy or reluctant to talk on the air, you want to make an appointment to see myself for a second opinion on your investment portfolio, an x-ray, a printed report, all you got to do is call Frida. Area code 604-737-3512. The long distance, 800-661-1495. Remind you once again, if you just tuned in, I'm certified financial planner Fred Snyder, also a registered financial planner. Kind of feel like a piece of beef. I've been branded, I'm certified, but I am. Those are professional designations, and I specialize in personal financial planning and teaching people what they need to know to make better financial decisions. I think they should teach financial planning in school. I think it should be the most important subject they teach you, period. It's about financial planning because we fail miserably in that area. Again, statistically, 100 people starting on equal today at the age of 25. By the time they're 65, 1 is rich, 4 are well-to-do, 5 are still working, 36 are dead, and the rest are dead broke, dependent on family and state. Sorry state of affairs. They should be teaching financial planning in schools. So if you have anything to do with the school educational system, time to make a call, because I'll be very, very happy to do whatever I can to advance learning about financial planning in the schools, or any school for that matter. Hey, and what about your kids? You say, well, I don't need that, I'm wealthy. How about your kids? Maybe they need to know the principles of personal financial planning. What about your next door neighbor? What about your other relatives? These are all important areas. So let's expand the realm of personal financial planning, and let's make sure that everybody has the knowledge that they need to make good, solid, sound financial decisions. So once again, 604-280-0650, long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Log on www.sil.650.com. Click on Watch CFUN, and you can see us live. And again, Frida's down at the office at area code 604-737-3512. If you're calling long distance, it's 800-661-1495. We have Len from Burnaby on the line. Len, welcome to the program.
Howdy.
Hi, Len. How you doing?
Good. The question I want is there a format that what you said, you had sort of a general overview of what you should have?
Well, I have a handout that I have here. It's a brochure I put together, which is entitled The 13 Reasons Why We Fail Financially.
Okay.
And I will be happy. I got a whole bunch of these. And if anybody wants one of these, just call Frida, and we'll see you get one. And that outlines everything we're talking about right here on this show.
Yeah. The show goes very quickly. I think one of the things you were mentioning, the different either mutual funds or investments of equities and stuff. You were saying the different things within this package you should have. Yeah.
Well, I'll outline that. The first thing, if you got a pencil and pen, everybody should make notes.
Oh yeah, just give me a second.
Good idea to do this.
You don't have that kind of in the
It's in the brochure.
It's in the brochure.
Yeah, but there's three main types of investments. There's cash. There's what is known as fixed income, and what is known as equities.
Okay.
Now the difference is cash. Like cash is like money in the bank.
Right.
Fixed income investments are like GICs and bonds.
Mm-hmm.
The income is fixed. The capital can fluctuate in value depending on the term to maturity. And then you have equities, which is like real estate or stocks. Mm-hmm. And so a good financial plan will establish what is known as strategic asset allocation, which is about how much money should be in cash.
Mm-hmm.
How much money should the average individual have in cash? And I think it should be around 10%.
Mm-hmm.
10% of your net working assets should be in cash. On the fixed income side, depending on your age, but let's say you're middle age, maybe 40% in fixed income, and the balance in equities, which is like stocks, mutual funds, and real estate. And you don't count the house you live in.
Yeah.
Your principal residence is kind of like a fallback position. You can count it if you want, but I normally don't. So what I'm looking for is called your net working assets. That's the money that you have in investments after your house, not including your house. So if someone has, we'll say, $100,000 in net working assets, then that's what's going to provide the income they need when they retire. That's what that's all about.
Okay.
And those calculations, we have software which will do that quite easily, quite readily.
Okay.
And then you have to assume a certain rate of inflation. You got to assume a certain rate of return, because if you go for a guaranteed return, the best you're going to get is maybe 2.5%. You could buy a GLWB, which will give you 5%. It all depends, and it depends on your tolerance for risk. It depends on your need to take risk or not take risk.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah.
These are all issues that need to be weighed, and you got to lay them all out.
Okay.
So if you call Frida,
Okay.
and again, you can get a hold of Frida right now at area code 604-737-3512. Give her, I'll give it out again, 604 737-3512.
3512.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give Frida a call. Make an appointment. Come on in and see me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But that's all laid out in.
That's all laid out. Yeah. And there's 13 reasons why we fail financially. Anybody who calls the show, you want a copy of this, just give us a call. Make sure you get a copy of it.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Fred.
Len, I appreciate your call.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. And really, it's kind of a messy day out there. The sun's shining, then it's raining. Is that the way your money looks? Raining one day, the sun's out the next. You kind of feel like a yo-yo. You're up and down. You don't know where you're at. I use the analogy. It's kind of like driving around town with a bag over your head. You're not going to get to where you want to go. You want to go to the North Pole. You end up heading for the South Pole, and you don't know. You don't even know that until it's too late. And all of a sudden, one day you're at the South Pole, and you say, God, I was trying to get to the North Pole. Well, I see this every day. I have people that come into my office, and I say, I have to ask them this question. What's your tolerance for risk? And they say it's low. And I said, well, that's wonderful. I just looked at your portfolio, and you have a high-risk portfolio, and your tolerance for risk is low. And they don't even know that their portfolio is high risk. I mean, you got to think about that for a minute. Because if you're in a high-risk portfolio, you better find out. Because if we had a market meltdown, you might find yourself down 30 or 40% overnight in a market meltdown. And could you handle that? These are issues which need to be addressed. Let's talk to Carolyn from Vancouver. Carolyn, welcome to the program.
Yeah, hi, Fred.
Hi there.
Now, I'm wondering, I don't really get any straight answers, but how does the IRS affect people who are not American, so us Canadians here that want to own some American stock? How does that affect the estate taxes in the U.S., et cetera? And also the RRSP and TFSA rules for Canadians owning U.S. stocks. I believe it's different because something about tax treaties. Do you know any of that?
A little bit, but I don't consider myself an expert on it. But I'll tell you as much as I know.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a Canadian citizen?
Yes.
And you're a Canadian resident?
Yes.
If you're a Canadian citizen and a Canadian resident and you own properties in the States, you are required to pay the Canadian government, CRA, income tax on your world income. It doesn't matter what country it's in.
What about the IRS, though? Because they want estate taxes.
If the IRS wants tax, then you get a tax credit against your Canadian taxes for that. So you don't get double taxed.
I see. So we don't have to keep track of how many, like, only go up to 60,000, foreign, foreign number. We just don't really worry about that. We'll just pay the tax once. Yeah.
What I'm saying is, let's say you sell some property in Hawaii and you have to pay some tax to the U.S. government, you'll have to pay tax to Canada too. You'll get a tax credit for whatever you pay the U.S. government on your Canadian tax. To the best of my knowledge, that's the way that works.
Okay, and if we want more information, how can we?
Well, if you were to come and see me and you're in such a situation, I would consult with experts in that particular area.
I see. Okay.
I'm like a doctor in the sense I'm a general practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
A general practitioner doesn't do brain surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they refer you to a brain surgeon, and I'm in the same boat. I can't possibly know everything. I can recognize a problem that exists, and if it's over my head, I know who to talk to.
Mm-hmm. All right.
That's what it's all about. And but generally speaking, I'll just say this as an example. If you were a U.S. citizen living in Canada, Canadian resident, you would have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because the IRS expects you to file a tax return. Basically, it's a form declaring all your investments. And if you don't do that, there's a very serious fine.
Yeah, I guess the question is whether the IRS will want Canadians will want our estate, our chunk of the estate, if they think that we have a certain amount of U.S. stocks or something.
Well, as long as you're a Canadian citizen, to the best of my knowledge, you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't take that as the gospel. But
Yeah.
to the best of my knowledge, and I know my taxes pretty well.
Okay.
And again, you always have to be concerned with taxes because they change the rules all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so what was true yesterday may not be true today.
Mm-hmm.
But I have people that I work with at Scotia that I can consult with anytime. And if you have an issue regarding all this stuff, you can make an appointment, come on in, there's no cost or obligation, and you can sit down with our estate planning team and have a long conversation with them in our boardroom about all this kind of stuff.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Fred.
Okay, Carolyn.
Okay.
Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
You too.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for your call. Take care. Bye-bye. Let's talk to Wendy from Grand Prairie, Alberta.
Hello.
Wendy, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm really enjoying your show. Lots of good information. My question is, I'm in a position for retiring,
Yes.
and I'm looking for ways to save. And I heard you talking about wills. Now, I
Yes.
have my will done, but I'm wondering how can you do your will in a way that you would save money? Is it by not leaving it to the estate, leaving it to the individuals?
Well, this is a wonderful question. Love it. You can't necessarily do so, but here's one of the things that you can do. If you don't have an estate and you don't have children, you don't need a will. You probably don't need a will. You have a will, whether you write one or not, because you have the will the government writes for you by default if you don't have one.
Right.
And you may not like that will. If you like the one the government writes, look it up. And if you're in favor of that, you probably don't need a will. But let's suppose, for example, that you have a house. And that's all you have. And you pass away. That house goes to your estate. Unless you own it joint with rights of survivorship with somebody else, one of your kids. If that happened, it would go to the kid, not to your estate, and you still wouldn't have an estate. If the house goes to the estate, you now have an estate.
Right.
Okay? Now, let's say you had $500,000 in the bank. You could take that if you died, that $500,000 would become part of your estate.
Right.
And you have an estate. But if you bought some segregated mutual funds where you can name beneficiaries with the $500,000, it would bypass your estate and go to the beneficiary. And you wouldn't have an estate.
Okay.
So you try to arrange your affairs where possible. You can't always do this, but you try to arrange your affairs where possible so that you don't have an estate. And then you don't have the problems that come along with it. You can't always do that because there's pros and cons.
Right.
And you don't even try to do this without seeking professional advice.
And who would you get that from?
Me?
Okay. Yeah.
Could start with me. And then if I need somebody that's more professional or more detailed on it, then I have lawyers that I can consult with.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
And you're all the way, are you just visiting there? Are you?
No. I live in Grand Prairie. I just happen to be, I listen to this radio station once in a while, and I've heard your program before, and I thought, well, phone in.
Well, if you ever decide to do business, I have a license to do business in Alberta, so.
Oh, there you go. Great.
I could look after you. Wendy, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your call.
Thank you.
You take care. Bye for now. Okay, so once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you just tuned in, I am certified financial planner Fred Snyder, also registered financial planner. Those are two professional designations representing Scotia-McLeod. Lots of experience, financial general practitioner. So when we get into that heavy-duty detail stuff, I have experts that I can turn to. I surround myself with a team of experts. We have to go to the break. And when we come back, we'll talk more about your financial future, so don't go away.
Fred Snyder.
I want people to call the show that are genuinely interested in increasing their financial IQ so that they can become financially independent sooner and stay financially independent longer.
Fred Snyder.
You don't have a blueprint. Imagine trying to build a house without a blueprint. And how about having a blueprint for your life? What are your lifestyle goals? You need to think about your family life. What are your goals about your family life? What are your lifestyle goals when it comes to health? What are your lifestyle goals when it comes to finances, mental and spiritual? You have to set goals in all those areas. not just finances.
Fred Snyder.
Often we fail because we put too much emphasis on one area and ignore everything else. We work our butts off and we ruin our health. So life is all about balance. So you need a life plan.
Fred Snyder.
Napoleon Hill says this, wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. Anything that you can vividly imagine, ardently desire, and enthusiastically act upon will inevitably come to pass.
Fred Snyder.
My goal, my mission is to help people enhance their financial IQs by teaching them what they need to know to make better financial decisions.
Fred Snyder. Sunday mornings at 9 on CIL 650. This is CISL Vancouver. Smooth and easy. CIL 650. You're listening to It's Your Money on CIL 650. Once again, here is Fred Snyder.
Okay, we're back. Remind you once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're live. We're talking about your money, more importantly about your money and how to keep it. Again, we've had some interesting calls today. I want to remind you once again that the best way to become financially independent is make sure you don't spend everything you earn. It's so simple, it's unbelievable. But it's hard to do because we deal with temptation, we deal with all the other factors in our lives which try to mess us up. But the bottom line is that most of us don't succeed financially because we don't have a plan and we don't know what to do. It's kind of like driving around town with a bag over our head. So, we look at the world right now, and I did a newsletter the other day, and I got a lot of information from the World Bank on the internet. So we're talking here about some statistics which are very disturbing to me. So if we take a look at the situation, in the world, there's 2.2 billion people under age 5. I want you to just think about that for a minute. 1 billion of those people are in total poverty. 1 billion, that's every second child, is in total poverty. Very, very, very scary and disturbing statistics. Over 25% of all children in developing countries are underweight, particularly true in southern Asia and the sub-Saharan Africa. It appears likely that the Millennium Development Goal of reducing the proportion of underweight children by 50% will be missed by some 30 million children. 30 million. About 72 million children of primary school age in developing countries were not in school in 2005. 57% of the children were girls, and their number are considered to be optimistic. It's a fact that nearly 1 million people cannot read or write. It would take less than 1% of what the world spends each year on weapons to put every child in school. 1%. Now, why am I talking about this? You got to see the big picture. How does that affect us? Here we are, one of the wealthiest nations in the world. Half the population of the world lives on less than $2.50 a day. That is over 3 billion people. The population of the world is 6.5 billion, half in total poverty. And if we think the government is going to look after us, why doesn't the government look after these people? You give a person a fish and they eat for a day, you teach them how to fish and they eat for a lifetime. But is it possible? We live in a very, very dangerous world today. And I think we have to pick our politicians wisely when we vote. Fiscal policy is part of it. So again, 100 people starting out equal today, the age of 25, by the time they end up at 65, 1 is rich, 4 well-to-do, 5 are still working, 36 are dead, and the remaining 54 are dead broke, dependent on family and state. And if you're one of those 54 and you think the government's going to look after you, maybe they won't be able to because of the sad situation in the world. These are really, really frightening numbers. So we're talking about your money, more importantly about your money and how to keep it. And if you're out there right now and you're wondering about your situation and your set of circumstances, ask yourself a few questions. If you're taking notes, these are some of the questions you need to ask yourself. Do I have a financial plan? Is that an effective financial plan? Do I know what my discretionary income is? That's the money that's left over every month. That's the money that's not earmarked for something. What is my net worth? That's the difference between my assets and my liabilities. Is my net worth greater this year than it was last year? Is it growing or is it going backwards? Okay. Am I going south instead of north? East or west? Sideways? My hopes, my plans, my dreams, and my ambitions, are they well defined into very specific goals? Are some of my goals related to mental development, to knowledge? Should I be taking a course such as the Canadian Securities course? You can if you want, you know. Maybe you might want to become a day trader. Maybe you don't want to sell securities, but maybe you want to manage your own portfolio. So if you're doing that, maybe you should be taking the Canadian Securities course. You can. It's an online course. What book should I be reading? Do I have a proper will? Have I arranged for the disposition of my assets to the people that I really want to get those assets? And have I done it fairly, in proportion? If I have 3 children, am I cheating one of those children and giving them less than they deserve? And could I be targeted by the Wills Variation Act, upset my will, and change it all? Do I know what my tax liability is on my final tax return when I pass away and I'm deemed to have sold everything I own at fair market value? And the government comes along with their hand and says, we need $1 million in cash or more? Am I paying too much for the wrong kind of life insurance? And do I buy my life insurance from a captive agent who works directly for certain companies and can't handle any other products and doesn't shop for the best price? Do you know the questions that should be asked? What are the what-ifs that could destroy my financial plan? You've probably heard recently on the news, and I've been railing against what goes on in this particular area for a long time, about the lady who ended up in a Hawaiian hospital because her water broke, and she got a hospital bill for $950,000. $950,000, even though she bought travel insurance? Even though her doctor said it was okay to travel? She did everything she was supposed to do, and yet she's in trouble. What would happen to you if suddenly you had to pay an unexpected bill for almost $1 million? That is a big what if in capital letters. So here you are, you're doing everything right. You're paying yourself first. You have a proper investment plan, you're following it. You keep it up to date on a systematic basis. You're doing all the right stuff, at least you think you are. And all of a sudden you get bitten. That's called not preparing for the unexpected, because that wasn't expected. And that is one of the 13 reasons why we fail financially. Not preparing for the unexpected. So all you have to do is make a phone call. If you call me right now with your comments or questions, you don't necessarily have to have a question. You might have a comment. You might want to say, God, I love your show. Or you might want to say, I hate it. Okay? Doesn't matter. Your comments are welcome. You might say, this is one way you could improve your show. Maybe you should change the name. Worldwide Wealth or something like that. Okay? What are you doing to make sure that you achieve your hopes, your plans, and your dreams and your ambition? What does your financial blueprint look like? And if you don't have one, let me tell you something. You need one. You should have one. It's no cost. I don't like to use the word free because it's valuable, but it's no cost. It's easy to do with the computerization that we have today, computerization that exists. You need to say, you know, I'm 50. I'm 50 years of age right now. I want you to visualize this. You're 50. And you want to retire at 60. Okay? So you're 50, you want to retire at 60. You figure that you're going to live to 90. So that means you're going to be retired for 30 years. So if that were to happen, you would need an inflation-adjusted income to finance your lifestyle over that 30-year period. So how do you do those calculations? So let's suppose you do a budget on yourself and you say, well, if I were 60 today, I'm not, I'm 50, but if I were 60 today, I would need $40,000 a year, adjusted at an assumed rate of 3% for inflation. It could be 2, but I'm going to assume 3. Invested at, say, 7% with a 1% margin of error, plus or minus, where the return might be 6 or it might be 8. I want the set of numbers that go along with that. How much money do I need to, how much money do I have right now? Is it enough? Will that grow between now and age 60 to be enough to provide that $40,000 inflation-adjusted income? How much do I have to add if I'm short? Maybe $1,000 a month? And can I afford to do that? What's my discretionary income? These are all the questions that are answered precisely in a written financial plan. You know exactly what you have to do. So if you don't have a written financial plan, who are you going to call? What are you going to do about it? Are you just going to sit there and keep procrastinating forever and ever and ever? Einstein says that doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting a different result, is the definition of insanity. Okay? And that's what a lot of people are doing. I know you, a lot of you that are listening to the show right now, that's what you're doing. Okay? When I get a little emotional on this show, I start to get calls. So maybe that's what it's all about. Let's talk to Pat in Surrey. Pat, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Fred. How are you today?
Pretty good, Pat. How are you?
Oh, I'm still hanging in there.
That's good.
I got a question about RRSPs in the RIF.
Okay.
I'm 71. I've set up my RIF. I'll be 72 next year. Now, as I understand it, I don't have to take out any money until sometime next year.
Yeah, you have to put the process in place. By the end of the year, you turn 71, but you don't have to take any income until the year you're 72.
Yeah, so I set up a RIF. So I've started that. Now, the question is, what is the best or most logical way to start taking this money out if you don't need to spend it?
Well, that's a good question, because there's lots of people in that boat, and that tells me that you're probably in the clawback zone as well.
Oh, yeah, you got that right.
Okay. So the best thing to do, like, you're forced to take the withdrawal, and the withdrawal is 7.3%. I think that's the number, 7.3% of whatever's in the RSP.
Yeah.
You have to take and pay tax on it, and maybe get some of your old age pension clawed back. The best thing you can probably do with that money, that extra money, is put it into a TFSA. The TFSA accumulates tax-free, but you've probably maxed that out already, right?
Yeah, so this will max out. Like, I was thinking maybe beginning of January, take out for my wife and I, that's what, $5,000, $10,000, $11,000 I think I can take out.
It'll probably be 11,000, that's right.
Put it into the TFSA.
Yeah.
Now, the rest of the stuff in there, there'd be about another $13,000 or $14,000. What do I do? Do I let this thing ride in the RIF, or do I take it out and invest it in something that hopefully will go up?
Well, if you take it out, you're going to have to pay tax on it.
Well, you're going to pay tax on it. Eventually, the tax man is going to get you.
Well, that's true, and sometimes you try to delay it as long as you can. A lot of it depends on the numbers. You know, for example, you don't start to lose your old age pension until your income exceeds $70,000.
Yeah.
That's approximately that.
Yeah.
And then you lose 15% of whatever that excess is until you get to about 130,000, and by that time the whole thing's gone.
Yeah.
So the bandwidth is between 70 and 130. I believe those are the numbers. Now, you can buy what's known as GLWB products. There's a form of annuity where the income that you receive largely is a return of principal, so that's not taxable. You don't even have to declare it on your tax return.
Okay.
So GLWB might be a portion of the answer, but really your question is complex. So, for example, let's suppose that you receive $100,000. No, that's too much. Let's say you get $20,000 from a GLWB. Of the $20,000, only about 10% of the $20,000 is considered taxable income, and that's taxed as a capital gain, which means it's only 50% taxable. So you end up netting about 98% of your GLWB payment if it's not a registered account. If it's a registered account, the whole thing's taxable.
Okay, so is it advisable to put money into a GLWB
It might
at the
be.
beginning of the year or the end of the year?
Well, the sooner you get it in, the sooner you save tax. If it's outside, it's earning income, which is taxable. So the sooner
but if you put it in on January the 1st, you don't pay tax on it until the following April.
Well, the following April you have to pay the tax, but the tax is calculated based on the calendar year.
Yeah, on the calendar year.
Yeah.
So.
But again, you know, the bottom line is that what you need basically is a written financial plan. You need to sit down and this is a complex question. I don't know enough, and I could take the next 20 minutes trying to understand your financial situation. I have to ask you a lot of questions, which I don't think you necessarily want to answer on the air, you know, to figure that one out. But the bottom line is I need to know a lot more information to be able to determine what the answer to your question is. Okay. But it sounds to me like you should be looking at the GLWB route, because there's not too many ways for you to save tax. The good news in a way is the fact that you're where you're at. It means you have a nice healthy income.
Yeah.
The bad news is you got to pay some tax on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the tax man always comes knocking, so it's something you can't get rid of.
That's for sure.
You know, it's just I wish we had some input as to how they spend the tax.
Oh yeah, that's why I say pick your politicians wisely.
But I mean, we live in the biggest democratic dictatorship in the world. You send a politician to Ottawa, and what do? You know, the prime minister gets up and says, "You're going to vote this way." Yes, sir. So why even bother to send them?
I know. I agree.
Save the money, leave them at home.
Well, Pat, all you have to do is give Frida a call. Give Frida a call. Make an appointment. Come on in and see me. Be very happy to sit down with you.
Okay.
You take care. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thanks, Fred.
Bye for now. Okay, Pat's line is now open, and we're starting to run out of time. So if you're out there, you're listening to the show, time to make a phone call, ladies and gentlemen. Make that phone call. Quit putting it off. Quit procrastinating. Face up to the facts. Again, the definition, if you take the word fear and turn it into an acronym, that stands for false evidence appearing real. So the opposite of fear is knowledge. So if you're afraid to make a phone call, you probably lack knowledge. Let's talk to Ryan from Victoria. Ryan, welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning, Fred.
Good morning, Ryan. How you doing?
Not too bad, thanks. Yourself?
That's good. I'm hanging in there.
Good.
Top of the morning.
Fred, I'm under 30.
Yes.
And I can probably afford to take a little bit more risk, and I was just wondering what your take on market products is.
Well, there's, if I were to take and pull up my database that I carry on my computer, I could do it right now, I'm not going to. But if I were to do that, I would discover that there's over 21,000 investment funds in Canada. I'm not talking stocks right now, I'm just talking investment funds. 21,000. And if I go to column 1 and I sort in descending order, I will have the number 1 performing investment fund in the first column. If I go to number 5, that's 5 years, I'll have the number 1 performing investment fund over the last 5 years. That fund may not be a fund for you, it's a hedge fund, and that may be too risky, but if you're prepared to take the risk, that's the performance, and the performance is awesome on those funds. If I go to that database and I say, what's the best performing Canadian equity investment fund that pays high dividends, I'll get another fund, and the return on that is currently running around 17% compounded annually. So I can sit down with you. I have 11 model portfolios that I offer, but I can make a custom portfolio. If you would come into my office, we can sit down and together we can select the investments that we put into the portfolio. Ad hoc, sitting right there interactively.
Now, those are mainly all mutual funds there.
That's correct.
But what about exempt market products?
Well, we have those too, but I mean, why are certain products exempt from the market? Why is that?
I don't know. I'm just starting to find out about them now. So.
Well, if they're exempt from the market, it's because of risk and all kinds of issues like that. Because it means they're not regulated.
So they're quite risky, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, I had a client in my office last week. You're in Victoria, right? Yeah. I had a client in my office last week who was dealing with a firm in Victoria. Okay?
Okay.
Exempt market. And his wife's a client of mine, and he's a client of mine. He just had a stroke. She told me that he lost $250,000 of this Victoria firm, the whole thing, everything, every nickel.
Oof.
Okay? I'm not even going to say the name. I know the name. I looked it up, and it was recent. Okay? That's the problem that you have. So there's a red flag when it's exempt. It means it's exempt from regulation. They get around the regs. You want to deal with products and investments which are regulated. You want to deal with investment advisors that are regulated. I'm regulated. If I get out of line, if I say something on this radio show that I shouldn't say, I can get in serious trouble. If I say you can invest in mutual funds that are guaranteed, I get in serious trouble, okay? Because they're not guaranteed. If I understate risk, I can get in trouble. If you come into my office and I put you in a portfolio that's risky, when your tolerance for risk is low, I can get in trouble. I'm regulated. Somebody's dealing with products that are unregulated, no trouble at all.
Okay.
You can sue them, but they probably don't have any money anyway.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't get paid. Like the job of the regulators is to protect the investing public against losing their life savings. That's what it's all about. And these people just infuriate me because they make life miserable for everybody. They destroy the trust that's needed inside this industry. It's sad. It's sickening.
The other question I have is, besides the Canadian securities course, do you know any other good resources for learning about investing?
Well, there's all kinds of them out there. Go on the internet. Google it. There's organizations out there which have courses that will help you pass the Canadian securities course, but it's not there's a company called CY as an example. There's all kinds of books that you can get. But I frankly think the Canadian securities course is the best way to go.
Okay.
It's perfect, I think.
Okay.
So again, any other questions?
No, that's good.
I hope I answered your question okay then.
You did.
Okay, Ryan, appreciate your call.
Thanks very much, Fred.
Say hi to everybody in Victoria for me.
Will do.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
Okay, so Ryan's line is now open, and I got to go in a few minutes here. So if you're out there right now, you want to get a will kit, you want to get the will book, you want to get a second opinion on your investment portfolio, you want a written financial plan which will crunch all the numbers for you so you'll know what your numbers are. And believe me, if you don't have it, you need it. And I know many of you listening to this show right now don't have it. So it's time to make some phone calls. Call me live on the air or call Frida if you're shy or reluctant to talk on the air. Frida's down at the office. She'll be down there for the better part of the day at area code 604-737-3512, 604-737-3512. If you're calling long distance, it's 1-800-661-1495. I really appreciate all the people who participated in the show today. And again, if you're out there, I still got time to squeeze a call in. You can get yourself a will kit. I'm tired of giving money away because I get all kinds of calls from people that aren't really serious. They just want to win some money. Oh, and by the way, I've been trying to give away this game that I have at the office, which is put out by Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which teaches you, it's like a kind of Monopoly game, which teaches you about financial planning. I'll give one of those away. Somebody gets a call in fast. So get on the line, call me. Again, and remind you, we're talking about your money, more importantly about your money and how to keep it. If you just tuned in, I'm certified financial planner Fred Snyder, also registered financial planner representing Scotia McLeod. We've been talking about your money, more importantly about your money and how to keep it. And again, it's how to keep it that counts. Maybe we need to change the name of the show. Maybe we're not getting that message across. Okay, CNN stole my name. After me, they have a show now called It's Your Money. Okay, I should sue them because it's my name. I established that name. So again, you can log on to my webpage. You can log on to www.cal.650.com. Or better still, you can call Frida down at the office at area code 604-737-3512. The long distance, 1-800-661-1495. Mind you, once again, it's about your money and how to keep it. We have to go. Same time, same station, next week. Bye for now.
If you'd like Fred to review your portfolio, call his office right now at 604-737-3512. That's 604-737-3512.